Shalom, hello, peace and blessings be with you all. I'm Lale Tuncer, this is Weissman, and we're here from Universal God Message of Peace. And today we're going to be talking about grumpiness versus joy. So, over to you, Mr. Weissman. Let's talk about grumpiness first,
Yeah,
shall we?
well, I'm a specialist in this topic, so I'm ready. No, so I somebody once said to me, I'll Rabbi Yisrael Sinner, so I will give him credit for this. So one day I was in a really bad mood. I just, and he asked me, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm okay." And he said, "You just gave God a C plus." And and I was like very shocked. And I thought about it, and that's really what it's like. And it's the grumpiness at its heart displays a lack of faith and trust, right? It's that somehow or another the world is supposed to be different than it is, and I'm upset with the way the world is. And if I really trust if I really trust in God, if I have that kind of deep faith, then whatever comes my way, I may not love it. Okay. As you know, we're not obligated to love every single thing that happens to us. That would be ridiculous, right? That's not human, right? Human beings don't love everything that happens to them. But I should be able to process it, right? Enough to be able to say, to be able to say, you know what? I don't feel so great today, but really I'm okay. Especially, and really things are good because look, yes, um, I may have had a bad day, but nevertheless, I woke up. I'm healthy. There's a beautiful cherry tree outside my window that's giving me incredible happiness. There's a oak tree just behind it that's just beginning to get its leaves. Right? The world is a good place. It's nice and warm and pleasant today. I have good friends, right? I have a lovely home. I have, reasonably good health. I have all those things. And and so there's really not, is there reason to be grumpy? Yeah, I can choose to be grumpy. I can choose to give God a C plus or a C minus, but in truth, really, God gets an A every day because we're here and you know another rabbi friend, I give him credit to, Rabbi Elchanan Tauber, he said, how many people wake up in the morning and go, whoopee? Like, how many people wake up and say, whoopee, I'm still alive. Wow, I'm still in the world. Yay. You know, uh, but the grumpiness is something that
Mm.
I think becomes kind of a habit. It's a habit of relating to the world. Um, and I think it's sad because I think we cheat ourselves. And more than that, I think we can also cheat other people because there's nothing less pleasant than seeing a grumpy person. It's hard. You're walking down the street. Another story. So there was a there, this happened. This happened to a friend of mine. There was a beggar on the street,
Mhm.
and every single day, this guy would ask for money. He called himself, for those people who live in Los Angeles, he called himself Frank Sinatra. I don't know what his real name was, but he was a beggar called Frank Sinatra. And this beggar, every day he would ask for money, every day to ask for money. And I had a friend who would give him money every single day. And one day
Mhm.
he was in a lousy mood. He was just grumpy and the guy asked him for money. And he said, and my friend said, no. And the guy said, why? He said, I have had the worst day. And Frank Sinatra, the beggar, said to him, just because you had a bad day, why should I suffer? Right? And that's really how it is with our face, like our face doesn't belong to us. It's other people have to look at it. I mean, we only have to look at it maybe once or twice a day. We check ourselves in the mirror, but everybody else has to look at it all day. And if you're wearing this grumpy face, that means other people have to experience it. They have mirror neurons, right? Which means that they're going to mirror our face, right? So now we've our grumpy face is actually contagious, right? So we're going to spread the contagion of our grumpy face when we have the option of spreading the contagion of our smiling face, which is much, much, much nicer.
So my dog is being grumpy right now. And excuse me, just 1 minute.
Okay.
She wants to go outside, so she's being a bit grumpy. So I'll
Okay.
just let her out.
Well, sometimes see, the dog is demonstrating something very important, and that is that sometimes we're grumpy because we need things, you know.
Exactly. That brings me
Right.
to my next question. What are the common reasons why people get grumpy? Because dogs get grumpy when they want to go outside to the
But when we feel that our needs aren't being met,
Mm.
we get grumpy. I think that and I think that that's,
Is
it's
that okay? Is that okay?
reasonable.
Is it okay to feel grumpy if we're hungry, if we're thirsty, if we're tired, if we've got a headache, if
It,
we're working too hard, if people around us are grumpy? Does that make it okay for us to be grumpy?
Listen, it's normal. It's normal for people to be grumpy. It's not, it's absolutely normal. And people shouldn't, we shouldn't try to make ourselves into into superhumans or into automatons. We all have our feelings, and and there are good days and there are good days and there are bad days. There are days when things go the way we want, things don't go we want. The question is not whether we should be grumpy. The question is whether we can deal with our grumpiness and recognize that we're grumpy, not take it out on other people, and do
Mm,
the things that we need to do in order to get ourselves, re-regulated, right?
mhm,
Put ourselves back into balance.
mhm,
And I think that that's almost always possible. When you're tired, right? If you're exhausted, right, then you have to give yourself some rest. And so you, rather than getting grumpy at everybody around you, you very nicely say to them, you know what, I need a little bit of rest. Okay, you guys gonna have to be a little quiet tonight because I have to conk out. Or
mhm.
whatever is, but to learn how to ask for what you want. A lot of times when people are grumpy, it's because they don't know how to ask for what they want. And so they're churned up inside because the world is not giving them what they want, but they're not asking for what they want, and they're not doing the things that they need to do to get what they want or what they need. I think
Mhm.
these are very basic needs. We need rest, and we need we need some kind of leisure, and we need for other people to have respect for us, and we need those are reasonable things.
So I guess grumpiness can teach us what we need, and it can tell us it's like our body, it's a normal feeling to have if we feel like we're not getting what we need. Um, but is there a way that I guess we can choose not to be grumpy? How do we do that? And yeah, how can if we feel grumpy inside, should we be masking it and pretending that we're not grumpy on the inside?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. And I'm not sure. Because here's so I'll give you both answers. Okay. So one answer is yes, because there is a certain kind of fake it till you make it thing that can happen. Okay. So if you, and this is, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, famous Jewish mystic, recommends this. And he says, if you're having a bad day, if things are hard, just be happy. Just act happy. And if you act happy, then you're going to you'll eventually be happy. So if you're, so sometimes if I find myself in a grumpy mood,
Mhm.
I turn on some music. If anybody wants to know what that is, it's Toots and the Maytals. It's a reggae band. That's
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's
That's
my
all.
go-to. That's my go-to ungrumpy music. And I
Mhm.
dance around my living room, right? Or I sing religious songs, or I dance around a little bit, clap my hands, and whatever else. And usually it puts me into a better mood. And I think that there's definitely a benefit to that. And if I'm walking down the street and I can feel my face, right? If I can feel my face and I know I have a resting grumpy look, right? I'm the person that people always ask all the time, like, are you all right? Like I I I worry a lot. I think a lot about things, so I sometimes have that face. So if I'm aware of that, I will try to put a half smile on my face. I'll try to think of something good just so I'm not, I'm not oppressing other people with my grumpy face. If you have and also if you have if you look religious and you have a white beard, then people always assume that you're like judging them. So that makes it worse, right? People look at you and they think, oh my, he must have seen something about me that, so I smile. And it's good for people to see religious people smiling because we see so many who don't smile. So I try. On the other hand, you also have to learn from your
Oh, so,
grumpy.
oh, sorry.
It's like pain, It's like pain. You shouldn't. You have to be careful about not paying attention to pain because pain is a way of your body telling you, oh,
Exactly.
something is wrong, and we need to deal with it. Uh, and the same thing is with grumpiness.
Mhm.
If there's something going on inside you, a lot of
Mhm.
times you don't know what it is. So
Mhm.
to take a minute and to say, well, what is bothering me? Like, why am I, maybe it's something somebody said to me and it's kind of running around in my head, or maybe it's a physical discomfort. Maybe I work too hard. Maybe, maybe I didn't get enough sleep. Maybe I didn't, whatever it is, or fasting. A lot of people get grumpy fasting, right? That's you know especially this time of year, people by the end of the day and or or if they're not smoking, that'll also get you there. um but to be aware of that and to say, so that you can get that need met sometimes, right? And you could
Also,
deal with.
there's a lot of wisdom in there, isn't there? So if we, let's say if we're feeling grumpy because if you're a smoker and you haven't had a cigarette and you feel like you're grumpy because of that, then that tells us that, tells that person that you're addicted to smoking. And actually, that's a huge bit of wisdom that you're learning about yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously, we all know that smoking is addictive, but like we can apply that to anything really. So if you're feeling grumpy because you're not getting your shot of whatever made you happy
Right.
um um in this world, then then that teaches you that you're addicted to that thing, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And it can be anything. It
Right.
can be somebody's company, it can be,
Any.
be with your uh children even, or whatever. It can be anything really.
Right.
So I guess being grumpy is like the opposite of joy, one could say. And when we're so let's talk about joy. So what are what are the common things which bring people joy in this world? And what is the difference between temporary joy and like a more lasting joy?
Well, yeah, years ago, I studied with a Buddhist monk, and I remember he said to me, "Happiness is not true joy." And I thought he was like a complete nut. I thought that was completely nutty. But yet there are different kinds of joy.
Mhm.
I would say we have to be careful not to be dismissive of fun. Fun is your first line of defense. I mean, there are some times when if you're really down for whatever reason, it's really important to get yourself out of that because it's the beginning of a downward spiral. And
Mhm.
And the easiest way to get out of that is to have fun, right? And that's I'm not just saying that. Rabbi Nachman says it, and he doesn't use the fun words when he uses the expression "milta de shtuso," which means literally stupid things, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to do stupid things. So it can be playing with children, it could be making up some stupid song, it can mean whatever it is, but something to lift you up, to
Hmm.
lift you up, you know, uh play, kids are great for this. Kids are great for because kids are always down for always down for this activity of having fun. And as long as the fun, is not hurting anybody, right?
Hmm.
You're not hurting anybody, you're not making fun of anybody, and those things are good. It's good to share jokes with people. The rabbis back in the day, the Talmud says that every rabbi before he gave a sermon would tell a joke, right? They tell a joke because it eases people up. And they say, well, is it just that it eases other people up? No, but it eases him up also, right? It eases you up when so fun is a good start. That's a good start.
Good advice, I think, definitely. Is it a little bit like going on antidepressants, for example, if somebody's in major depression and they're so, low that they can't, they're not at that place where they've got the motivation to be able to reflect on what's causing the feeling down or whatever. They just need a quick fix to get them out. And
Right.
it might be like a mask, which sort of masks over,
Or it
um,
take, or it takes the edge off of
pick it up and
it
lift it
takes
up. Yeah.
edge off that pain, right? So that you're, because part of it is, I'm no expert in brain chemistry, right? But, serotonin and all these things, if you're able to change just by doing something fun, you actually change your brain chemistry.
Yeah, like running or doing some vigorous
Right.
exercise, the endorphins, and laughing is a great,
Right.
so making jokes and laughing and releases all the
Also, I once
and
went to this laugh yoga thing where people were laughing, and it was really
I know. Yeah, I get a
it was
bit.
it was too much. It was scary to me. It was scary, but people can do that. That's great. But yes, laughing, right? Laughing is very good. All those things, they give you a more a greater ability to be able to see the world, to be able to see the world clearly, right? And because really, we all know that when we're down, when we're grumpy, right? Uh, you know sometimes you can see a person who's grumpy and you can literally see like the black cloud over their head, right? And we can feel that black cloud just even over our own heads, right?
Mhm.
So, um, through that black cloud, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to see anything. It's very difficult to have a very, clear sense of what's bothering you and why it's bothering you. So if you're able to raise your mood a little bit at least, then you can have a little bit more of a, a focus on what's really going on.
But we can't spend our whole life just making jokes and things, can we? Because
No,
actually, then we might get lost into that. And actually, people do lose themselves in the temporary pleasures of this world. So, like, they might want to go out and party too much, or, turn to alcohol or drugs, or, just having fun, fun, fun.
right?
And then when do you stop? And at what point? Because these can bring us joy and happiness, I guess, in the short term, but it doesn't last
Yes.
and it always comes to an end. So surely at some point we need to be looking at
Yeah.
um, what is
Yeah.
the underlying reason for our grumpiness? Are
Yeah.
we grateful enough? Should we be looking at gratitude? Should we be looking at patience? Should we be looking at forgiveness and letting go of our bitterness? And should we be looking at becoming more compassionate and loving and that type of thing? So all the sort of lasting
Right.
um
Obviously, there are things which give us lasting happiness, right? Those things, first of all, just as far as the dangers are concerned, there's a Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto put it very nicely. He says that fun can be like a greased shield, which means that anything real, right? If you're constantly have fun, then any kind of information about yourself, any kind of like real issues, you're going to completely step away from them, right? They're just going to bounce off of you, right? You're not going to be able to receive any of that information because everything's just kind of bouncing away from you. So that is legitimate problem. So the question is finding out what exactly it is that makes you happy. Obviously, I think, if you go to any graveyard, I feel like that's the best way to do it. Go to any graveyard, look at the gravestones. Okay, nobody ever says, this person had a PhD, this person was a doctor, this person this person was a tennis champion. It says wife, mother, father. Our relationships, first of all, are what give us happiness. And then that includes our relationship with God, and maybe especially our relationship with God. That's a great source of happiness. And this is a little bit of advice from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, and he says the best way to find happiness is to look for the good points in yourself. Very often our unhappiness comes from a dissatisfaction with ourselves. Sometimes we're not really aware of it. We don't realize how down we get on ourselves. And so he says a person should spend time, yes, you should be honest with yourself, and you should look at yourself, you should see all of your faults, and you should work on yourself, and always try to improve yourself. No, not to just let yourself go, but at the same time, always spend time to look at your good points, to look at the ways in which you have good motivations, and to give yourself credit, to do an accounting of yourself that includes the good things about you. And he says that that's a very powerful source of inner happiness that a person can carry around with them, and that leads to an external joy also.
That's, yeah, beautiful. I think it's so hard to, if you're feeling grumpy or down or depressed, it's so difficult to come out of it just like that. It's as in we have to we have to hold on to the goodness, whether it's to the goodness of somebody else who is there for us and helps us out of that, or whether it's to the goodness within ourselves. And actually we all have goodness within ourselves. I think sometimes it's buried, deep within the layers of all the hardness outside, and we can be too hard on ourselves, and
too hard on others. Sometimes we get grumpy because somebody said something to us or somebody did something to us. And if we really look at it closely, if we look at that person, right, and we really pay attention to who that person is, we're going to see that there is so much more good in them than the one little thing that hurt us, right?
exactly. And I
That
think
one thing is one little thing.
I think gratitude for our relationships, for our loved ones, is a huge part that can, to plays a huge role in helping us to get out of our grumpiness, because we do get grumpy with people sometimes, and then you just don't know what's going to happen. They might not be around tomorrow, and then we might be remembering all the kindness they did and regretting not enjoying that moment that we had with them, and regretting
that would be a horrible regret to carry around, right?
Yeah.
So
And I think many of us do take our relationships for granted. We
yeah.
take people for granted around us, and we don't realize the impact of what a smile can do. And
Mhm.
um, so I guess is it selfish to be grumpy? You mentioned before that perhaps it is. And so should we be working on ourselves, on our selfishness in order to become less grumpy?
Well, we'll put it more positively. It's much more generous. It's
Hmm.
much more generous to express joy. And it's also it's much more generous, um, and it's much better for you. It's much better for the people around you, and it also changes you. The thing is also when we do something, that thing that we do changes us. It's even our faces. I mean, you know, uh, we talk about smile lines,
Yeah,
right? So people's faces change. So if you see somebody who is perpetually grumpy when they're 70 years old, 80 years old, that grumpiness is etched on their face, right? It becomes part of their face. And on the contrary, somebody who's expressed joy, that's also etched on their face. And the same is happening to our soul, right? Just like it's etched on our face, it's etched on our souls. And it becomes and it becomes easier and easier and easier to become grumpy because that's becomes the way you deal with the world.
yeah.
I suppose, or expressing joy, it becomes easier and easier to express that joy and the gratitude, right?
Mhm.
To walk into the house and be happy that you see your family, to walk into work and be happy to see that you see your coworkers and to be able to say that. Not to be creepy, you have to be careful, don't have to be crazy, but it's nice to see you and mean it. When somebody says that to you, when somebody says it and they mean it, it means a lot, and it does a lot for us, but also it does a lot for the person who's saying it, because they're changing, right? Their attitude is changing. They're walking through the door, and their intention is not, okay, I have to just slog through this experience, but they're saying, wow, I'm getting to work with these good people, and people who are kind and working hard, and I'm very happy. Or I come home to my family, and I get to be around these lovely people, these lovely little things that are growing up and becoming human beings right in front of my eyes. Um, that's a lot to be grateful for. And if you make a habit of doing it, it changes you and you become a person of gratitude. You become a person of joy.
So is there a place to is should there oh sorry, I can't really speak today. I can't really speak normally anyway, but okay, let me think how to put this. Sh- Is there a time to not be joyful? I guess
Yes,
what I'm
cry
trying to
into your pillow. Yes, there's a time to cry into your pillow. We're human beings. There are times we have to cry into our pillow. There are times when we have to put our head down or we have to pound the floor, right? There's those times. That's the human being. There are times when things are just very hard, and
So it's okay to cry, it's okay to be grumpy and sad, but it's
yeah,
better to do it by yourself and not around other people.
yeah. Try not to make any other people pay for it, or and if there's somebody who loves you, who can help you, who's got some, a good friend that you trust, all these things are ways of dealing with it, and helping it be something which is going to be healthy and useful. And it's not easy. I have my grumpy days. When I was a teacher, I used to put on the board, okay, I would write, I am grumpy today, on the board, because I did not want my students to do something stupid and that I was going to get upset with them for nothing. Okay. So when they saw the words, I am grumpy, on the board, that meant that meant that whatever stupid thing they're planning on doing, this was
Mhm.
not the day to do it. Right. This is not the day to do it. Okay. If you want to do it tomorrow, I'll be much calmer and everything else. But today I'm in a really bad mood. And even that I think is I
No,
think that's
that
the way of dealing with it, to be honest and say, oh God, I'm really in a rotten mood. At least you're, being honest. And also, by the way, it put me in a better mood to tell my students I was in a bad mood, because then it became a joke with them, right? Like they were kind of play with the line, like say, okay, well, this, you know, uh, uh,
that's really good. I think that's good thing to do, to let people know if you're having a bad day, so that they're aware that they need to be careful. What about, for example, if you is there a time to not be joyful, as in when you're around other people?
yeah. I mean, listen, we don't go to a funeral, and go, hey, what a great funeral, you know, uh, um, or go to a funeral and go, you know, your mother, she was, tell jokes, whatever. Now that's not always true. There's sometimes,
Some people do
yes,
that at
they do
funerals.
that, and I think that's totally fine. You have to kind of feel out the situation and talk to the person and see where their mind is at. And some people love that, right? They want to hear stories about their relative, and they love those things, and that's great. Um,
But if you're around somebody who's really upset about something,
right.
surely, obviously, it might help them to make a joke, but it doesn't always help, and it can make it worse.
No.
You might, because, if my daughter, for example, is upset about something, I sometimes do stupid things to try and make her laugh
Yeah.
and it does help. But obviously, we've got to be careful of what situation it is, and um, isn't there a time to actually
Yeah,
just
you have to have skills. I mean, all these things require skills. Luckily, you require skills, and we also have to know one important secret, and that is that the other person is not you.
Mhm.
So, because sometimes we think, I would really like it if, you know, I would really like it if somebody made a joke right now because it would make me feel better. But maybe that doesn't work for this person. So you have to gauge who the person is and try to do your best for that person, right? Some people, it's a hug. You know, whatever it is that's bothering them, if you hug them, everything turns better. Okay, there's people who are like that. I'm a bit like that. Okay, I'm in a grumpy mood. Hug me, I'm fine. I recover quickly. But other people that's not going to work. Other people are gonna need words. They're gonna need so um
One moment, sorry, Miriam, darling. Yeah. Can you not do that, please, sweetie? Good girl.
you're a doctor, right? So you don't go to the pharmacy and say, give me everything. I have some stuff wrong with me. Just give me everything. I'll take all of it. No, right? Because then you would die. So instead, you have to take the right medicine for the right. So and different medicines work better on different people. So you have to know a little bit about the person and about yourself what you need. I know that there's sometimes, I need my reggae music and I need to jump around. And other times I just need to clap, like a monkey. And other times I have to sing and, you know,
I do things like that as well, and it does help, definitely. Um, but what is going to cure us from going down into our grumpy moods? What you mentioned earlier on when we started, that it's about trusting in God, trusting in his plan, trusting that, having faith that everything happens for a reason and we have everything we need. And I guess maybe we could talk briefly about that as well, and all the things that can, if we work on ourselves in the long run, of trying to, work on our faith, work on our connection with our creator, work on our patience, how can we do all these things? Obviously, we can't really cover all of that today, but maybe just to consider.
I'm going to say that all of those things, right?
Mhm.
Everything that you mentioned, I think, is related to trust in God. I think all those things are related to trust in God, right? We're patient. We're patient because we figure that the world is in good hands and everything's going to be okay, right? We're able to, we have, we're,
Be grateful because we
we're
believe.
grateful because we believe that everything is a gift and that it's uniquely given for our good, right? So all those things. And so developing that trust in God is really essential. And it's essential not just, and again, it's essential for us, but it's also for people around us, right? Because then we're going to be, if we wake up in the morning, right? Whippy, right? We wake up, wow, I'm alive, and we're happy, we're grateful, right? Then we're going to be patient with ourselves, we're going to be patient with other people, we're going to be expressing gratitude to them, we're going to be greeting them with a nice face. We're going to be shining a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of a light, a little nur, you know, and that's a very big thing. And that's really doing a lot. So a little bit
I
of
think
joy goes a long way, and a little bit of and working with our grumpiness and having more trust in God. It's not so simple, but we can make a start. We can always make a start.
and prayer and charity and fasting and studying scripture is a good start.
That's a good start. All those
It's
things are the things, those are the things that help us to build trust. All those things help us, to build our trust and build our relationship with God. And
Yeah, and then hopefully we can transform all of the temporary joys to a lasting joy by making our desire one with our creator's desire and seeking his pleasure rather than seeking to fulfill our bodily
Amen.
pleasures. Amen. Amen. And yes, so
Okay. So let's wish everybody peace and blessings for this week. And thank everybody for joining us, and Ramadan Kareem for those people. Ramadan and Purim is coming up this next week for our Jewish friends. So party
maybe
responsibly.
we'll talk about that next week.
Okay, we'll talk about that next week. Although we did start on talking about joy, which is a very appropriate for Purim. So
Okay, God bless you all. Peace and blessings with you. Shalom. Thank you. Bye bye.